Hi there, it's Teresa coming to you in the fall. I just had a conversation with someone, and this is probably going to be a little sloppy, messy, sort of slow or something to get this thought out. But I was just like, you know what? I was imagining in my brain drawing these thoughts out from our conversation, and then I was like, why don't we just shoot a video in case this can help someone in the future? So anyway, if you're listening to this and you've got some experience with the doshas, this is where sometimes it can get confusing, and it's confusing to me even sometimes too, which is exactly why I'm doing this, because I'm kind of like thinking it through as I am writing here, and as I met with my friend Helen this morning. So anyway, we've got as those of you, I'm not even going to keep talking like that. Just like, here's the lesson. If you know it, you know it. If you don't, you don't. No big deal. Maybe you'll get something out of it either way. Okay. Actually, we'll spell it out here in case you are new. So Vata, Pitta, Kapha. This is like the tri-doshic energies of Ayurveda. Up here, if we break this word in half, this means self or life. And Veda is science or knowledge. Okay. So again, you'll just have to bear with me here. This is not going to be one of those like perfect videos. We're going to kind of like learn as we go here. So I'm going to make that smaller up there. So just kind of remember that. And each one of these doshas have characteristics that go with them. So, and then there are times that, and we use these energies, pitta up, vata dispersing, and kapha down. This goes in all directions, and then kapha goes down. We use these three energies to start to understand just everything about the body, the organs, the mind, the feelings, the nature outside, the food that we eat, like everything about life is it can be broken down into sort of understanding them in either upward, downward, or dispersing. Simple as that. Okay. So in like Chinese medicine, it would be yin yang. This is where Ayurveda has a three-pronged system here to understanding things. So anyway, in our conversation today, this 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 trying to understand the energy that's showing up for this person, and came up, and it brought us to this point where I was talking about the mobility of this person having to be going to like lots of different places to care for a loved one, and that she was having to be very mobile. Okay, so mobile is a characteristic of Vata. Kapha is stuck, stagnant, or stable. So we use these words to help us understand. So you can see mobile, variable, and yeah, so you can see how already like stuck and stagnant energy versus mobile and variable. Stuck, stagnant energy could be a negative, or stable can be a positive, right? Up here, there's also structure, which is a great one for Kapha as well. It's like it is the structure. Before I go much further, and I'm going to like talk about this too and say that there are elements that go along with these doshas. And so vatas are ether and air. So ether, air. Ether is really like the cosmos, universe, all that kind of stuff, big stuff. Air is energy, or is moving. And then pitta up here is fire and water. And then over here in kapha, we have earth is the element of kapha, and water. So H2O and all the different aspects of water. All right. So those are just kind of things too that we keep in mind when we're talking about this kind of stuff. And I'll just highlight those real quick. This is what helps us understand it too. So if we think about water and earth structure, it's the foundation, right? Um, Pitta up here is fiery, so that goes along. Whoops, we're gonna keep things the same here. I'm gonna go back to the orange. Pitta is then the attributes or words that go with this are focus, fiery, pointed, sharp. Lots of words are coming to mind. Transformative, transformative. So this is like it becomes something. Fire, when we apply fire, it becomes something else. It transforms. All right. Fire. Now, people who are pitta, fiery, focused, pointed, transformative, they get stuff done. All right. They are just known for getting stuff done. All right. They get stuff done. This can make them so focused, they can become so focused that they become like you don't want to get in their way, like they are going to accomplish something no matter what happens, and they can become, their focus can become very sharp back here and judgmental. So that can show up in there because their focus is so straight on that they have a hard time like seeing the sides or other opinions or other ways or other options. Okay, so that's where they get stuff done, but often it's in a pretty like harsh way a lot of times. I'm going to shrink this down here a little bit. All right, so if we then move into Vata, come over to here into Vata land, mobile, variable, some other words that go with Vata are creative. Whoops, again, let's keep this on point. Sorry, not that big of a deal, right? But creative, freedom, right? That dispersing energy goes in all kinds of different directions. Mobile, variable, creative, freedom. Let's see what else. Clear. And sometimes the negative, what can happen with this is chaos can ensue. Because it doesn't have the directional focus of fire and pitta, and it's got this freedom, it can kind of go in lots of different directions. And if we're not good at recognizing that energy, it can get out of control and turn into chaos. All right. It can become very unstabilizing, or should I say destabilizing, unstable, destabilizing. And this is when, so unstable, instability, all those words that go along with it. And this is where it becomes like, again, the opposite of over here, the kapha stability. All right. Let's move over to what I'm going to try to do here is just point out the confusion that can happen. So where are the similarities between these doshas when we can get in a space of sort of not being clear on what is actually happening and what is showing up? Because a lot of times, like that's what's happening. And when we have imbalance, it's because things are out of balance, and our job is to bring them back into balance so that we can regain our strength and move forward and do the things that we need to do. But when we get in that imbalanced place, in that unstable place, it can become very confusing. What needs to be done, okay? Or what action needs to be taken, or what's out of balance. Like we can't even understand it because it becomes cloudy. This is going to start where it starts to be. Kapha is cloudy because it is earth. It's more dense, thick, it's actual physical matter, which is earth, right? As opposed to um, air is not, you cannot hold it. It's not tangible. Not so tangible over here. Okay. So back to this, what I'm going to try to point out now, which showed up today, was this like what I've got is I have a member who is so dialed in on her habits. She is so good at all of her 10 habits. And what happens is it becomes more and more subtle, more and more challenging to figure out when things are out of balance. So we went on this kind of quest to, figure it out. And the cool thing is that we do it together. So like her and I are like talking and we're working together, and she tells me what's going on. I give some feedback. Then she says, well, but this, and then I say, oh, maybe it's different than what I expected. So this is again where like the back and back conversation is super helpful. And I'm not like a doctor that's coming in and saying, this is what's wrong. This is what you need to fix. Instead, it's an actual complete exchange. It's a conversation. It's like a let's get down to the nitty gritty. What's going on in your life? What does it look like when you do this? What does it look like when you do that? And doctors they just don't have time to get this detailed with their patients, which is why the health coaching world is really booming right now, because we're realizing that we need an outside source. It's very helpful to have an outside source, someone's outside of ourselves that can be a sounding board for us, right? We know what the doctor says we're supposed to do. We know that's going to lead to better health, but how do we apply that in actual daily life? The doctor can't run around with us and say, oh, you're doing that and you're doing that. Oh, I see now you're doing that. No. So instead, we spend a little bit more time with our coach, whoever we choose to work with, and even coaches need coaches. So like everyone needs a coach. Everyone's going to benefit from having a coach in all different facets, whatever you're working on in your life. All right. I love this because it is, for me, it's become the most comprehensive. We can talk about health. We can talk about your business. We can talk about your life, your family, your goals. Like these energies can be applied across the board in life, which is the reason I really like dialed in and just fell in love with Ayurveda. All right, moving on. Again, I told you this was going to kind of go all over the place, but we're just taking it. We're just going with it. All right, so where can it get confusing? All right, so today when we were in conversation, the person that I was talking to was a Vata constitution. We're heading into Vata season, and she's had some loved one have health challenges that has led her to be back and forth from hospitals and facilities, and she's not grounded. She's not been able to be as grounded over here in the Kapha land as usual in her daily routines. And so her routines have had to shift. They've had to become variable over here. Okay. So she was very grounded in all of her habits, and then life threw her a curveball and everything became variable. New places to be, all of these things. Habits, daily routine got shuffled. And so we were in this land of like, what's going on now? Things are sort of like foggy for her and unclear. And that's when we came into like, oh, well, maybe there's um, her mobility made me think about how variable life was. It made me think that she was in a Vata imbalance that might needed to slow down. But in fact, when we talked more, she said, I am really moving slow. I am being very intentional. I am doing all my walks and all my things, and I'm meditating and I'm sitting still and I'm thinking and I'm removing myself from situations that feel too full and all of that kind of stuff. And so we were in this sort of place where I was saying, Kapha and Vata can be very confusing. I kind of say it feels like we get in this like the bottom of the bowl where things could swing either way. And the reason that it can swing either way is because we can get into this place um, of like paralyzation in a way, or so it's similar to like, sorry, here, bear with me. Similar to like being stuck and overwhelmed. Overwhelm, I find, can happen in both of these doshas. One is overwhelmed because there's a stuck, there's a stagnation, there's a too muchness, right? If kapha is abundance and nourishment, um, we're gonna just write this down. It's like just feeling full of life and just love, full of life and love. But if we get too much of something, that can all of a sudden, right, weight us down. And all of a sudden we become stuck and stagnant. We're almost like immobilized because over here, we're the opposite of vata. We're immobilized because there's too much and we don't know what to do and our energy is down. We don't know how to get back up. All right. So the same thing can happen over in vata land. If we've got this highly mobile, variable, creative, free place to be in, again, back where this chaos and this out of control can take place. And that's another way that it can lead to overwhelm, that we can fall into overwhelm. So again, that's where I feel like it sort of like swims at the bucket, at the bottom of the bucket, at the bottom of the barrel with these doshas. Sometimes I feel like, wow, sometimes it can be really confusing which one of these doshas is out of balance. When, and again, it's when there's been like a lot, either from like, say, a death or a diagnosis, all of a sudden things go crazy. And it can be so overwhelming that it can leave us in a place where we're like, I'm paralyzed. I can't move. I don't know what else to do. I don't know what my next step is. And when we get into like not knowing what our next step is, we're into the unknown over in Vata land, which is beautiful, can be beautiful if it's in the right place. Like the unknown can also be beautiful in that it can be like potential. Oh my gosh, there's so much potential here. It could be anything, right? Or it could be, this is so scary. I have no idea what's going to happen next. And I am scared to death. All right. Okay. We've talked a bit about this now, about this place of like overwhelm and unknown and that kind of thing from Kapha and Vata. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about a little bit more about how we can get confused between Kapha and Pitta. All right, so I'm going to minimize these so we have a little more room. Bear with me. If you're still with me, good job. Thank you for sticking with me. Okay. Now if we're going to talk about this place of like, again, this place right here, like where do these two, whoops, let's get, where do these two kind of like link up? So the things that link up here is if you've got, if Kapha is structure, let's do it in a different color. If Kapha is structure, we have a saying that says, structure precedes evolution. And what is evolution but is moving forward? So we need both. Precedes evolution. Evolution is a moving forward, right? But it can be in like a spiral way. So that's why we use a spiral a lot of times to talk about like this growth place, because it's moving like more in a Vata like way. There's movement, but it's moving forward, which is Pitta. It's like that driving energy. But with Kapha and Pitta, a lot of times we'll have people who are Kapha Pitta or they're Pitta Kapha. So they've got really high determination and focus and pointed, sharp, transformative energy. They can turn things into something else. But they can go so hard that sometimes they'll just like, oh my gosh, I'm exhausted. And they'll just like, they'll reach a point where they went too hard and now they're just tired and they're on the couch and they can't get back up because they are so tired. And so that's kind of can happen where people will fall into, like, oh my gosh, I'm doing so well. And then I just drop. So anyway, that would be when things are out of balance, when you've sort of got like, you've got an imbalance of doshas to look at. Anyway, when we get into this place though, where you're like, this, if you're talking about things and you're trying to find solutions, if you're talking about, in order to have transformation, again, we need structure to precede evolution. We can't just be willy-nilly and we can't just like make things happen without a structure in place, right? The most highly effective CEOs and that kind of thing, they're really good at like they're really good at structure. They're probably really good at like how they run their days. And yeah, so anyway, getting kind of stuck here a little bit because I'm thinking too much. But anyway, because I don't have a person that I talked with today, but I was just really coming in here talking about this, how things can get confusing in there. So you do need a structure in order to get something done. The fiery focus needs to be happening to be in the transformative place. If you got the opposites of kapha and pitta, pitta is hot, light, flowing, mobile, sharp. Kapha is cold, wet, heavy, gross, dull, dense, static, soft, and smooth. So in order to be successful over and over again in this pitta land, you really need to learn how to be balanced in your nourishment. You need to keep your nourishment up. You need to not have too much. You need to not be too overwhelmed. You need to be able to think clearly. You need to be grounded. That's how you're going to be successful at anything that you're trying to transform at. So if you just go and you literally stop feeding yourself and you stop resting, you're going to burn out. Okay. So I think that's kind of where I want to go for today, and that's about it. And we do get into this place where like oftentimes we have this vata pitta or pitta vata kind of person. And that's where I'm at. I'm about 50-50 of each one. So I can think really creatively. And I really am good at getting things done. But what I miss a lot of times is this piece. Like, how do I build the structure so that all of my creativity can transform into something? So does that help a little bit? I'll repeat that again. How can I create a structure for my creativity so that I can turn it into something transformative, transform it into something? Because I am in this Vata Pitta land a lot, I do go back and forth quite a bit between exhaustion and overwhelm. Because I can't turn the thinking brain off. Thinking won't stop. My creativity will not stop. So then I fall into this overwhelmed place really easily because I cannot stop the variable qualities of my thoughts. They just are going everywhere all the time. All right. And they can quickly get out of control. And it's very difficult and it creates instability. And it creates, again, exhaustion. But my fiery self has a really hard time not wanting to get to the thing that I have the idea about. So does that make sense? So anyway, I hope that this did something for you. I know it's a lot of words and a lot of thoughts. And again, this is how I show up. I show up My members know this about me. I show up spontaneous. This is, again, my Vata nature, spontaneous, emergent. I see something that I want to talk about, and then I have to like kind of talk it out to get it out, and my mind just goes in all different kinds of directions. So what subtle potency does is it has forced me to create the structure. My structure is subtle potency as a community. This has given me a format, a home, a structure for all of my thoughts and ideas, right? Does that make sense too? So, subtle potency, my work in developing this group, this community, this business is my grounding effort to turn my Vata Pitta, personality into something that's stabilizing for people, that helps people feel nourished and helps people feel abundant and helps people feel stable and like they matter. So anyway, that's a good place to round it out. I really appreciate that you sat here and listened if you're still around. And yeah, just reach out if there's ever anything I can do to help. All right, see you.